So the SEC just filed a new letter with the judge in order to try and get another case involved in this Ripple versus the SEC case. So what they're trying to do is give their side of the story a little more authority on why Ripple's fair notice defense should be struck down. But are they actually shooting themselves in the foot? According to some that are analyzing it, this isn't really a big deal, or at the worst for the SEC, could even be spun into a positive on Ripple's side. So I'm going to get into it in this video. The other big story in cryptocurrencies right now is, of course, the markets. And it's not just the cryptocurrency world. The rest of these markets are acting somewhat erratically, of course, when there's rumors of World War III that's going to happen. So I'm going to talk about what some of these markets are doing, what the US markets are doing, the cryptocurrency markets, including Bitcoin, and some of the altcoins. And in some NFT related news, specifically talking about OpenSea, one of the Bored Ape owners who had his NFT sold out from underneath of him because of a bug in the OpenSea system is now suing OpenSea. Now this is a separate story from the phishing scam that I talked about in my last video, but this one's really interesting. Hey everyone, my name is Randy and welcome back to the Late Night Grind. Right now on this channel I'm covering the Ripple versus the SEC case, as well as other cryptocurrency news, investment markets, and personal finance. So if any or all these topics interest you, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Join the Late Night Grind community. Don't forget to hit that bell notification icon so that YouTube will send you a notification when I release a new video. And if you're feeling generous today, I'd appreciate it if you do two things. Smash the thumbs up button and watch the video all the way to the end. Those really are the two best things you can do to support a YouTube channel. So if you do that, I'd greatly appreciate it. All right, guys, let's jump into it. So let's start off with that story about the Bored Ape owner, the Bored Ape NFT owner that is suing OpenSea. OpenSea, of course, is an NFT marketplace built on the Ethereum network. So what happened, and I've seen some of these stories on Twitter the past couple of months, that there are some bugs in OpenSea that NFTs have actually been selling from underneath their owners for far less than what their owners actually listed them for. In some cases there have been prices where somebody was trying to sell an NFT, later delisted it and tried to sell it for another price, but then it sold for the previous price. Well, this one's a really interesting one, and he may have a big case against OpenSea. His Bored Ape NFT was actually sold out from underneath of him for $26. Now, if you know anything in the NFT world, a Bored Ape is worth a heck of a lot more than that. In fact, it was taken from him and then resold back on the NFT market for $250,000. So the previous owner of that Bored Ape NFT is now suing OpenSea for $1 million. My opinion, he's got a case. So if you combine that along with the phishing scam in which a whole bunch of other people lost millions of dollars worth of NFTs, well, OpenSea's got some legal issues ahead of it. All right, so now let's talk about the rest of the markets, what Bitcoin is doing, what the Dow Jones is doing, and what the Russian stock market is doing. Because as there are rumors of World War III going on, whether it's actually an invasion, whether that invasion actually happened, whether that's a physical invasion, all of those are up for discussion. If you head out on Twitter, there's a lot of information or misinformation depending on where you look. So as it stands right now, Vladimir Putin is moving into those regions in which he declared separatist states away from the Ukraine. Some people say that is actually the invasion. Some people say, nope, that's actually where he's going to be stationed in order to do the invasion on the rest of the Ukraine. We'll have to see. But nonetheless, the Russian stock market basically tanked, as a lot of people would expect when there's times of war, rumors of war, uncertainty like that is going to happen. Now, yesterday was President's Day in the United States, so the markets were closed, and this morning they opened down. That's not a shocker. Everybody thought that was going to happen. The futures were down 4%. But nonetheless, it actually wasn't as down near as much as I thought it was going to be. It wasn't the bloodbath. Meanwhile, the Dow and the S&P were down. The NASDAQ, which are the tech stocks, were actually up. And in fact, Bitcoin being the big one in cryptocurrency was up over 2.5%, rallying from early this morning, and it's continuing to climb as I make this video. So unless you are holding PayPal or Peloton or Facebook/Meta, you got absolutely hammered. But outside of that, NASDAQ is actually doing pretty well. Okay, so let's get into what the SEC just filed with Judge Annalisa Torres. They actually wrote a letter to the judge asking if they could file this new motion, this new reply, in which they're entering a new case into their defense, in which they're trying to go against Ripple's defense of the SEC trying to strike down Ripple's fair notice defense, if you follow along. Basically, they're just arguing back and forth. Ripple claims they have a fair notice defense, and the SEC wants it struck down. So the SEC filed a letter talking about a new case that just ended. It was the SEC versus LBRY, in which this is a very unrelated case, or, well, at least according to Jeremy Hogan and John Deaton, who don't really think this is actually much of a big deal. But the SEC is trying to bolster their own side of things by saying, listen, this LBRY case actually had its selective enforcement defense struck down by the courts. So the court actually did strike down LBRY's selective enforcement defense, and I'm not going to go into a lot of the details on that because it honestly is really unrelated to the Ripple versus the SEC case. And what Jeremy Hogan said on Twitter made a lot more sense. He said they may actually be striking themselves in the foot by trying to enter this as more authority on their side because it's completely unrelated. And in fact, in the case that they entered, the SEC didn't even try to strike down the fair notice defense of LBRY. So it's another one of those head scratchers by the SEC, essentially trying to throw the last minute table scraps onto anything that they can onto their side to try and provide more authority before they actually go to trial. But here's the interesting part of all this. Because they said, in this case, LBRY, like the Ripple case, did not file an ICO. Did they just say Ripple didn't have an ICO? I thought that's what this whole case was about. Ripple having an initial coin offering, which they considered to be a security. Well, I looked it up, and it's not exactly that. The SEC is actually charging them with ongoing offering, not an initial offering. So I guess in semantics, there could be a big difference. In court of law, there's probably a big difference. But in my opinion, they're basically just charging them with an offering, but they're missing the whole point. So we are coming up in 2 days, a big date, February 24th. This is the date in which the judge granted the SEC an extension, yes, another extension, in which they have to file the response for what Ripple wants unsealed. And that is the Brad Garlinghouse and Elad Roisman notes, the meeting between Brad Garlinghouse and then SEC Commissioner Elad Roisman discussing a whole bunch of different topics. These notes have to be submitted to the judge for an in-camera review. So Ripple may or may not get those, but nonetheless, the SEC has to the 24th, A, to produce those notes to the judge, and B, follow their reply. So it's going to be really interesting what the SEC is going to try and argue, because most likely they're going to try and keep these documents hidden, sealed, away from Ripple anyway, in any way, shape, or form that they actually can, along with those 63 emails they're still trying to hide. So that's coming up in a few days, and as soon as that comes out, oh man, there could be fireworks. So make sure you subscribe to the Late Night Grind YouTube channel, because as soon as that comes out, you'll be hearing about it from me. Also, in the link in the description below, you can see a link to my Twitter profile. You can go and follow me there. I retweet and talk about a lot of the information that I talk about on these videos, but sometimes I even do it well ahead of time. So if you want to follow along with those stories, make sure you do that. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching this video all the way to the end, for giving it a big thumbs up, and as always, I'll see you guys on the next video.